is hour number 2. That's drive time right here on the show that shakes the Southland Clemson Sports Talk. Lawton Swan with you, and on a Monday afternoon, 5 o'clock of a college football game week, William Qualkinbush joins us here. Qualk, we have made it. College football on the horizon, my man. Welcome in. How are you?
Swan, I'm doing great. I can't complain one bit. And yes, indeed, if you count Nebraska Northwestern as college football, it is here. If you count Duquesne and Florida State, it's here. And if you count Vanderbilt, Hawaii, then it's here.
Based off of how I've counted NFL exhibition games in my sports brain, I am so thankful for college football. And Qualk, I want to start in one of the things I want everybody to understand, we do not communicate about what topics we're going to talk about. So out of the gates, Qualk, the title of today's show is Who Will Stumble? Like a couple of weeks ago, I did a show about who I thought could work their way into the conversation. Who is most likely to stumble? And I know you don't have all the schedules in front of you, okay? But is there a team that stands out to you? Like, I think North Carolina State's got a very difficult schedule. I think Baylor, given what they did a year ago, has a chance to be one of those teams. And I also said Notre Dame has a chance. First year, Marcus Freeman, tough schedule. What are your thoughts? Is there a team that you know or you feel good about saying, Swanee, I think they're going to stumble this year?
Well, I'll tell you this. I think NC State is going to be really good. And they're my favorite overplay in the ACC at 8.5. I see 8 wins minimum on that schedule just because I think their defense raises the floor for them. Baylor is an interesting one because their win total is like 7.5, and you're going, like, what? Like, where's this coming from? What are we talking about here? This is a team that, like, they won their league, right? I mean, they returned a lot of pieces back, and their starting quarterback got beaten out by the guy who won the league last year. I mean, to me, that's a weird one, the Baylor situation. If I'm looking at 3 teams in the top 10 that could stumble, Swanee, the first is Ohio State. Now, I know that Ohio State is supposed to be God's gift of football because they score so much, and their offense is so elite, and they're just putting back first round receiver. Like, I understand that. I don't think people really have looked at what happens when Jim Knowles goes to a place. Jim Knowles, who did a very good job. Do not misunderstand what I'm saying here for a criticism of Jim Knowles. Very good job at Duke. Very good job at Oklahoma State. The first year he went to Duke, Swanee, he took over an average to below average defense, and they got worse. The year that he went to Oklahoma State, he took over an average or so defense. They got worse. They actually got significantly worse in the first year of Jim Knowles. He is one of those guys that takes a couple of years to really instill his scheme, and then once he does, you're good. There are folks who think that adding Jim Knowles is going to just fix Ohio State's problem up, and they're going to be just ready to roll. And I think they're going to give up 50 a couple times. I don't know where those are because I don't really understand how they got away with a schedule this simple, but it is what it is. Notre Dame is another one. I mean, my gosh, why would we think this is the offseason where if you're going to talk about who's going to stumble, look at the high expectations that are being placed on first-year, first-time head coaches. We're not talking about Lincoln Riley at USC, or, by the way, that's another team that's going to stumble because they, too, have to play 2 sides of the ball and also special teams. Right. Are they going to go for it every 4th down, or are they going to put the defense and special teams out there at some point? Because if that's happening, then they're not going to win every game. And UCLA is good, and Utah is good, and they've got some tough crossovers, and Notre Dame's good. Like that, they got some tough challenges there. I think Brent Venables. Like, I looked at the SP Plus rankings. Bill Connolly doesn't have them. Bill Connolly's formula. I don't want to knock people who just have a formula that works and then blame the person for every time that spits out a number or a result that we don't agree with. But Bill Connolly's SP Plus formula has them 4th in the country. They weren't 4th last year. Since when has a first-year, first-time head coach been better than their predecessor? You're talking about not just Oklahoma.
In fairness, I did question them as a potential one. I did bring them up. I absolutely did.
Listen, Notre Dame, first year, first time making. Look, they're recruiting great. Notre Dame is the new North Carolina, Swanee. Look how they're recruiting. Look at the buzz. Look how many pieces they're going to have next year. Well, guess what? They ain't got those dudes this year. And the only game I've ever seen Marcus Freeman coach, they were up by 100,000 points against a team that couldn't score and blew the lead in a bowl game.
Yeah.
Now, that's not an indictment on Marcus Freeman. It's not. But it is an indictment on people who are saying they're fifth in the country. They weren't fifth in the country last year with a top 3 coach in our modern era. Yeah, I said it. Forget the Kirby Smart stuff. Brian Kelly's the top 3 coach in our modern era. Look what he did at Grand Valley State. Look what he did at Central Michigan. Look what he did at Cincinnati. Look past the distance from from your eyes to the end of your nose, right? Look out and see what Brian Kelly's done. Brian Kelly's the top 3 coach in the modern era. He couldn't have Notre Dame in the top 5. Nobody Marcus Freeman has recruited this season is playing, right? So how in the world are they top 5? And then the other one is Oregon. Oregon's about to get destroyed by Georgia because Oregon lost some guys to the portal. They've got a good foundation on the line of scrimmage. Dan Lanning is a first-year, first-time head coach. Why are we putting first-year, first-time head coaches in the top 11 when their predecessors couldn't even do that? Those are the easy ones. I know, and I gave you Ohio State. But those other 3 are laughably easy. And then, oh, by the way, Texas A&M. I mean, what are we doing with Texas A&M all the time? Who is the quarterback at Texas A&M? Does it matter? If it's not Jameis or Kellen Mond, Jimbo Fisher hasn't won with him in 15 years. Why do I care who the quarterback is at Texas A&M? I saw a thing on ESPN where they're going to have like 9 freshman All-Americans. When has there been an elite team, Swanee, with 9 freshman All-Americans? Or some, ungodly number of freshman All-Americans. It ain't going to happen. This is not 2025. So quit telling me about Texas A&M and how great they're going to be. They're going to be the same as always, 8-4, probably lose to Mississippi State, probably play a field goal game with South Carolina. Number 5. Put them number 5. Ask God about that. Ask God how he did his deal.
Follow him on Twitter at Qualt Talk. Hot takes there as well. Before I change the topic, I will say this is my lean in on, and you said you like NC State, and they may very well be fantastic. This is my lean in, right? You go in game 1 on the road at East Carolina, rivalry game. Scully Nation's always a little fired up. I think they'll beat them, but I've seen them lose before. That Texas Tech game, then if they were to lose that one, kind of becomes a toss up. Then Clemson. Now if that were to happen, you're 2-3. And you had all these expectations. And then that's where I think the rest of their schedule with Virginia Tech and Florida State and everything just swamps them. But maybe you're right. And maybe they end up being, the champions of the Atlantic Division. I know this. I like the quarterback play. Like you said, the defense is better. I think Dave Doran seems like a more confident. He used to seem just kind of like a jerk. Now he just seems like a confident head coach. And I'm okay with confidence. I'm not okay with people being jerks. And I think they're excited about that program. All right, shifting gears just a little bit, Qualk. I mentioned Clemson as a potential one of these teams that could stumble this year. How would you lean in on that thought? I
mean, sure. I would add them to the list. I mean, if the offense isn't any better, they could certainly stumble. Now, here's why I think I would take Clemson over 10.5 in a heartbeat right now. And here's why. Clemson hasn't lost a home game to anyone since 2016.
Right.
Look at the toughest games. Look at the games that people are worried about. Nobody's worried about at Wake. Nobody should have been worried about at Wake Forest anyway. Nobody's worried about at Wake Forest. Nobody's really worried about at Florida State. That might change in a month. Nobody's really worried about at BC except me because BC's got an elite secondary and they're going to make you one-dimensional. And Phil Dracovic is that dude. If you're asking me which quarterback would you like to take in the ACC, if all you had to do is win one game, I would go with Dracovic. Now, I wouldn't take him as my quarterback through the season because he ain't healthy through a season. We don't know that. But if you ask me one game, I got to just get you through 4 quarters healthy, Dracovic. So I'm a little worried about Boston College. Why would I think – look, last year, all Clemson did was play one-score games, right? All they did was play one-score games. And it kind of went down to the dumbest plays. Like Georgia Tech, remember that series down at the end? You had the lightning delay and all that. You had the stupid nonsense with the safety at the end with the goal to go situation and the big Boston College just falls on their face like walls of Jericho. Clemson defense just walked around and the walls came down. They didn't even do anything. It showed up, rushed the passer, and he drops the ball right in your lap. Florida State, what was that lateral play? Clemson ends up covering the spread. Like, just dumb stuff has happened. Clemson didn't lose any home games last year. Why do I think Clemson's losing to Louisville or Miami or NC State or South Carolina this year? They're not. They're not going to lose that game. They're not losing at home. Why would I think that's happening? They're going to be favored on the road every game. Even if I get one loss, Swanee, I'm still 11-1. I'm still over that 10.5. Now, if you're talking about stumbling, that's a different thing because you could stumble, lose once, and still be in the conversation, but not be thought of quite the same way. I would say Clemson, because of the offensive struggles that they have, that would be, I mean, to me, that would be something to ponder. I would not say that. I would not put Clemson on that list, but I would say if you put Clemson on that list, I would understand.
Again, every day from noon until 3 o'clock, out of bounds with Qualk and Ben, 105.5 The Roar in the upstate. So, Qualk, I'll take you down this next little path here as it pertains to the college football scene in Clemson. If it is indeed Blake Miller who ends up having to start for the Tigers at left tackle, how, what's your feeling on that? I mean, when you hear like Walker Parks, who everybody just loves Walker Parks. I mean, that guy will run 30 yards down the field and just knock the mess out of somebody for fun. When you hear Walker Parks talk so glowingly about, Blake Miller, I think you feel like, okay, that's a good thing. But, where do you stand on starting such a young guy at such a key position? I know it's not, I guess it's, interchangeable left tackle, right tackle in this offense. But nonetheless, I mean, your thoughts on that taking place?
Well, I mean, it feels different than last year, right? When they put Marcus Tate out there and it was basically like, well, we tried a bunch and he's our best. Blake Miller, it feels like earned it, and what's good about this is that you have options, right? You have an option to put Walker Parks on the outside and just do something at the right guard, or Walker Parks is enough a team player to move inside. Will Putnam's already moved inside. And look, if you wanted to put Jordan McFadden inside, they could probably do that and move Tate to tackle. Yeah. I think Marcus Tate might be your left tackle next year. So I see the interchangeable parts logic. I see the logic of getting your best five on the field. There's been some comparison in terms of readiness between Blake Miller and Mitch Hyatt, even going back to the spring. You kind of wanted to water that down a little bit just because, that's just spring. But he's done nothing to show anyone that's seen him that he's a legitimate that he's some sort of a legitimate, casualty or some sort of a negative on the offensive line. I just think you're getting your best five out there. If one of your best five is Blake Miller, go for it and let the chips fall where they may, because unlike last year, you get some easier games to kind of ramp up to, that NC State game where he can get his feet wet a little bit.
Yeah, I want to clarify that too. I think I said left tackle at the start. I meant right tackle, but nonetheless, all different. I mean, you're going up against defensive ends that are going to be coming off the edge, just not protecting that blind side. William Qualkinbush with us here on the program today. And Qualk, I got to ask you, Monty Lee with the Gamecocks, back where it kind of all began for him at the highest level collegiately. You've been around Monty Lee quite a bit during his time at Clemson. I mean, I'm not shocked that he's in Columbia and coaching with the Gamecock baseball team, but what's your take on that when you saw that news come out last week?
Well, my first thing is it's not a good look because we both know there were always some Clemson people who thought Monty Lee was a South Carolina plant or something. He was really a Gamecock at heart. I can tell you that's not true. That's not what was the case. Here's what I would tell you, and this is where I'm gonna give Monty a little bit of a pass on this. There are a couple things to know about Monty Lee. First of all, he did work at South Carolina and he enjoyed it. He's working for Ray Tanner via in the power structure, right? I mean, he's got no boss over him, but Ray Tanner's still his boss, and Ray Tanner's gonna call him, come home, whatever. And he can help. I mean, he's still a very good baseball coach, I think, with a lot of good ideas. The second thing is, one of the points of pride for Monty is that he's spent his whole career coaching in the state. If he wanted to coach, He could have gotten jobs elsewhere. He could have gotten a job in Major League Baseball, being a scout. I think that's something that probably interests him to some degree. But ultimately, he wanted to stay and coach in the state. And when he became the head coach at Clemson, he took the South Carolina rivalry very seriously. Sometimes maybe to a fault, he took it very seriously, beating the Gamecocks and having success over them. But he's also a guy who's from the state. And when you're Clemson, you fired him, you let him go. He's got to have the opportunity to be gainfully employed.
Right.
You're paying his buyout. So, I mean, I understand that it looks bad. It would not have been my first choice. I'm not sure I would take a job at South Carolina, but Monty Lee's principles dictate that he wants to be in the state of South Carolina. And so I wish him well.
You know what's funny too, right? Like, I think sometimes because of what football coaches make, like, you can kind of get this perception that baseball coaches are making that same kind of coin and, well, he didn't need the money. But maybe you really look at it, yeah, they make really good money, but you're probably going to continue working given the salaries that baseball coaches make. And so got to earn a living. Go get it. Qualt, man, I know you have to earn a living every day from noon until 3 o'clock out of bounds with you and Ben Milstead, man. Keep up the great work. And you know how much we appreciate you stopping by and doing it again on video a little bit. So when you get moved in, by the way, for everybody that knows you're moving.
Oh, man. It's like a 3-step process. So we're moving to I call it a halfway house. That's not what it is, but it's like the house we're going to stay while our house getting finished.
Right.
So we're doing that in about a week and a half. So prayers up for that.
Hey, man, good luck, Qualkin. I appreciate you, buddy. Take care.
Thanks, Wani. Always good to be with you.
William Qualkinbush here on the program. 803-450-0086. Text line, phone line. Interesting. The lean in there on NC State from Qualk about just how consistent, he thinks they are going to be this year. Your boy Swanee's I'm not buying the Wolfpack just yet. Now, look, I'm not trying to shoot them down either. But again, I think it's a tougher schedule than maybe some people want to believe. Let's see if I can pull up their schedule for you real quick. And yeah, they're likely to do pretty well. I don't deny that fact at all. But I think that if they struggle, right? If they struggle, I think that it'll be because the expectations for this season are so high. And I think when you have a situation like that, then it becomes increasingly more difficult to, do what you need to do. So at East Carolina versus Charleston Southern, Texas Tech in that game, it's at home, fortunately. UConn should be a win. You go at Clemson, Florida State, Syracuse, Virginia Tech, Wake, Boston College, Louisville, and North Carolina. I'm not saying it's the most difficult schedule that I've ever seen. But I think because people are buying in, there is the potential that if you are struggling, keeping your team bought in, right? Like Dabo Swinney talks about being all in. What Clemson did a season ago to hold that thing on the road was not easy. And so what I'm projecting is, what if NC State can't keep that thing on the road? Where does their season go? That's my question. Stay with us. Hey, guys, thanks for hanging out with us on the live feed. Again, we will be back tomorrow, probably with both hours in full for you. But you can keep up with everything going on with your Clemson Tigers over on our website. Put the .com on it. Doggone it. That's ClemsonSportsTalk.com.